Turnout as an adult dancer, and really any dancer, can feel like an elusive and impossible position to maintain. Thinking of turnout as a position might be part of the problem. Hey dancers, I'm Allie Christensen. I am a dance movement specialist, and basically that means that I am collecting knowledge and information to help you in all aspects of your training. Everything from cross-training, cues that work, and things that make your body feel good so you can excel in the technique and in class the way you want to. Turnout's in the top 3 requests that I get, and turnout for dancers, and really any dancer, is really something that can feel quite elusive and hard to hold that position. But I think that that's part of our problem, thinking about turnout as a position. When turnout is an action, it's something that is continuously happening. Muscles are engaged and we are changing that engagement as our legs and body move through space in class. Turnout is a deep dive and a lifetime pursuit of work for dancers, but in this video, I wanted to give you 3 super easy cues that will change how you feel and use your turnout. And these are some of the cues that make the biggest changes for my adult dancers. So stick with me through the video and you'll be able to pull these 3 cues out of your pocket and help you with your releve, your plie, and everything else in between. To best understand this first cue, it's vital that we understand where our turnout muscles are. Now, a lot of dancers and teachers will talk a lot about the inner thighs when we turn out, and they'll say something like turn out from the hips, which is not wrong. But it's not very helpful unless you know how and where your turnout muscles are. Your deep hip stabilizers, or your turnout muscles as we call them, are 6 little muscles that are deep inside of your hip. So deep that you can't actually touch them on the outside of your body. They are covered by other muscles. Now, if we look at this photo, you're gonna see that these 6 little muscles attach from one part of the leg bone, and that part is called our greater trochanter. All I want you to do is try to find this greater trochanter and our sit bone together. So stand up, put your hand on the outside of your glute and your hip, and let your hip get sassy like you're a little kid pouting or getting that little hip dip. As you stick your hip out, do you feel that little part of the thigh bone that pops in and out underneath the outside of the glute? That's your greater trochanter. Now, the little muscles actually attach on the inside of the greater trochanter, but it's this bone here. So with your hand on your greater trochanter, you can now draw along your underwear line or leotard line to the bottom of your sit bone, which is up in your glute muscle. And these are right where those muscles run. They run right along the leotard line, deep inside the pelvis, and they connect at different spots. All you need to know for this cue is that from the greater trochanter to the sit bone is where this connection happens. Now, this is where turnout gets interesting. Turnout is a name that we probably gave it because of the opening that we see presented to the audience. And this is where I think teachers get the cue to bring your inner thighs forward or use your inner thighs here. But our inner thighs are part of the turnout stability. They are very important, but they are not turnout muscles, in that if you squeeze your inner thighs, they don't turn your legs out. They're definitely part of the package, but when we think of them as turnout muscles, I find we don't actually access the ones that are responsible for the outward rotation of the legs. Now, the last thing I want you to think about with this cue is that the muscles that run from your greater trochanter to your sit bone, when they engage, a muscle will shorten and it actually pulls back and together. So the action of the muscle engaging is a closing in the back of the body, not an opening in the front. So if you can start switching your brain from the front and open to the back and closing, or this little like clipping together back here, greater trochanters to sit bones, this wrapping closing action, it's gonna help you get a little more clear on what turnout feels like. It's still gonna be important to strengthen and use those muscles well, but making the switch from here to here is a cue that will be priceless. So In class, I call this out as Leotard Line muscles. So you can put that first cue in your brain and start thinking when you hear turnout corrections, Leotard line, Leotard line. That's our first cue to think about. Pelvic position really matters when we're trying to make changes to how our turnout feels and we use it in class. And it's a deep dive all in itself and something that I cover a lot inside of my own Dancer Strong programs. But for this video, I want to give you the cue I'm using the most right now with my dancers. It's the one that I feel gives the best results from someone feeling much better to awesome in the way their pelvis is placed without going into all the little tiny fine details. This is kind of a catch-all cue, and it's called the harness hip. The harness hip cue comes with needing to understand where this cue comes from. So imagine with me that you're a kid on one of those trampolines that you have to put on the harness, and the harness attaches up into the top corners. That harness gives you a lift up into the air, and then their feet are dangling, trying to reach for the bottom of the trampoline. Sometimes even the worker has to come and kind of pull them down to get that jump going. That's you in ballet class from the ceiling. You have your harness on your hips that's attached to the ceiling, and it is pulling your hip girdle up off of your legs. And then your legs are pushing down through the floor to reach for the floor. So we're not all up and very elusive like, there's still something that grounds us. But the big difference is, instead of trying to change the shape of our belly, which is different for everyone, and having a flat stomach does not mean you are pulled up, engaged, or supported. Getting the hip girdle to pull up, which will engage some of the core and torso muscles, is gonna give you a closer to neutral pelvis. We're gonna have a longer low back, and you're gonna have some access towards these turnout muscles or the leotard line muscles that we just talked about. Now, I will give you a chance at the end of this video to tie all these cues together. So stick around, stick with me, because I think it's gonna be worth your time. Now, the last cue has to do with our feet. We estimate that about 70% of our turnout comes from our hips, which is why teachers say turnout from the hips. But there's a lot of little details and rotation that happens down the leg through the knees, the ankles, and the feet. Now, all of that is its own work and things we can work to improve, especially if you're a dancer who has discomfort in your back, hips, knees, or ankles when you turn out. There's something we can work on. But this always gives me a good sense of how to connect the back of the legs. So if you'll stand again and put your feet in a parallel position, I want you to let your ankles relax and roll in. We call this pronating. So this is where the arch kind of collapses in. And then if you put more weight on your pinky toes and kind of pull your ankles up, you can see that my ankles are now in a straighter line and that my arch is picked up. And then when I relax the ankles, bloop, they flop back in. And then I put more weight on my pinky toes and I pull my arches up a little bit with me, and I have a nice straight line. This happens in turnout. And these are little muscles that need to be strong and active in different ways than you just pulling your feet up, but it can give you a reminder when you're in class to help you access your turnout muscles. So if you put your feet in a very easy first, don't impress anyone, I want you to feel like you can stand with your whole foot on the ground. Put your pinky toes through the floor. So it's gonna feel like you're almost picking your arches up or losing your big toe on the floor. Do not lose your big toe, but it's gonna feel drastic because most of us do roll in. So here's your pinky toe. Now I want you to let the arches go and roll and pronate in. And do you notice that something changes in your legs? So now let's kind of put all these things together. We're gonna push through our pinky toes so you feel that roll in the arch that we were talking about in parallel. With the pinky toes pressing into the floor, can you give me the harness hip? So feel your harnesses up from the ceiling pulling you up. Keep that harness hip and put your brain at your turnout muscles going along your leotard line. And then keep that leotard line and let your ankles relax and roll in. Do you notice that it's really hard to keep your leotard line muscles? When you let the whole line roll forward and you lose the pinky toe on the floor, it's gonna be really hard to keep this. So those 3 cues can help you put everything into the spots that we want to have our turnout coming from without cranking the knees, without cranking the ankles, without that feeling of like, how do I hold this because I'm so over-rotated in my ankles. In the beginning of this video, I said turnout's not a position, it's an action. If you are turning out, cranking the ankles, trying to hit a picture in space, what happens as soon as you start to move? The feet turn in, and then dancers say to me all the time, why can't I keep my turnout while I'm dancing? Well, it's because we weren't actually holding it, using it, engaging it when we were standing. So starting here, let's go through one time. Let's put all the cues together, and let's try this with a releve. So your feet are in it easy first. You're gonna feel your pinky toes rolling through the floor. Harness hips are pulling up off of your thigh bones as your feet push through the floor. That push through the floor, I want you to rise up onto your releve. So push the floor and push the ceiling. Now feeling your leotard line muscles wrapping, back of the legs closing together. Try to keep your harness hips up high, like I'm pulling up on the harness as I lower down, keeping your pinky toes connected to the floor, leotard line muscles, harness hip stays high. Now as you go into a plie, try to keep your hip bones high in the harness. So it's like they don't want to just drop. I want you to stay high, 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 high as your knees bend, your pinky toes are through the floor, the leotard line is closing and wrapping together in the back. Now as you push tall, you got to keep the pinky toes, the leotard line muscles, and the harness hip pulling up. Woo, let's try it one more time. Harness hip pulls up, pinky toes through the floor. Push the floor down, moving the ceiling with your head. Feel your leotard line wrapping. Harness hips stay up, like you're getting measured on the wall. Don't let them come down until they absolutely have to. Pinky toes, leotard lines, wrapping and closing back together. Harness hips stay high as your knees bend, your pinky toes are continuing to press through the floor. Feeling your leotard line muscles. In this plie, it's not about the knees pulling wide, it's about the thighs and that greater trochanter pulling towards the sit bone. Push the floor, feel the wrapping, the pinky toes, the harness hip as you stand up tall. Whew. It's a lot of work, but turnout is a lot of work. So these 3 cues, if you stuck here till the end, I'm really proud of you because these cues can make a huge difference, and it is about how you make these changes happen at home, plies, small things during class, instead of just trying to create that picture at the end. So this is just the beginning of your turnout work, and I hope that this maybe gave you a little light bulb moment as to what your teachers are asking for in class, or maybe you felt something a little bit different. Whether or not that happened during this short video, please know that turnout happens from doing exercises well, often, and with the right intention behind them. Kathryn, Morgan, and I have been working together for several years now. I take her class, she comes in for cross-training privates, and we work together in her KM and Friends intensives. And we have definitely learned the power of breaking things down, taking the time for a dancer to feel and understand what's happening in the small moments so that they have the big moments in class where pirouettes are floating, jumps are exploding, and you're feeling that rotation through a whole exercise, not just when you're standing on 2 feet. We both feel that this dedicated time that a dancer gives themselves to work like this is worth 50 ballet classes where you're just following along, shuffling through, not sure what you're supposed to be feeling. Taking the time to make this change is what has changed both of our dancings and the thousands of dancers that we've worked with before. So we partnered together to make a virtual workshop for dancers like you. It's 3 hours of exercises, cues, ballet barre breakdowns, Q&As that happen with real adult dancers, questions that you guys have and we're answering. And we finish off with a ballet barre that is truly focused on just turnout, so you don't have to worry about anything else. So if you'd like this information, go down into the description. We would be happy to have you over there. And we truly feel that this is the information needed to help the rest of your dancing explode and feel amazing in class as your technique elevates and your body feels good. I hope this was helpful in putting a few easy to remember cues into your body and gives you something new to focus on during your next class. See you next time.